Hi, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Lex Kane's TV Reviews. This is another Doctor Who spoiler review on the episode Lucky Day, and here we go. The opening scene, we see a panning shot going down, and we find out it's New Year's Day, but we don't know what the year is yet. And then we hear the TARDIS noise coming into the scene, and then the camera pans down, and then we see the TARDIS. Then we see the Doctor come out of the TARDIS with that device he's had since Robot Revolution, and hence again the Doctor's got a brand new costume again. He hasn't got a fixed costume again. This Doctor, to me, this is not Doctor Who. He having different costumes for each episode, and I counted in this episode 3 times he had different costumes on in this episode. And then he's going around scanning the area, and then the Belinda asks, "Where are we, Doctor? Have we made it? We made it back?" And he said, "Definitely Earth, definitely London." As he tries to see what year they're in and what month they're in, but we find out it's New Year's Day, but we don't know when. And we don't know why, but Doctor gets very excited about finding a 50p piece coin. Don't know why he gets excited to see a 50p coin. But he does, and he's laughing and he's joking, and it's like he's never seen a 50p coin in his life. Then we get to see our main character for the story, because this is another Doctor Who Light episode. Hence why Ruby is the main character as well in the story. And little boy, they find out his name is Comrade, and Comrade says it's 2007, and they found out that the device has worked, it's brought them to Earth, but it's brought them to New Year's Day 2007 in London. Then the boy turns, and the Doctor gives the boy the 50p coin. Says, "I think this is for you," the Doctor says. Hence, he says, "It's your lucky day," hence the title, Lucky Day. Don't know why it's called this title anyway. It's a bit of an unusual title for this episode, when you find out in a minute. So, Belinda says to the boy, "Where's your parents?" And the boy, Comrade, replies, "My mum's watching the fireworks," so we don't get to see if he's got a father figure in his life. He grabs the 50p coin off the Doctor and runs away. The boy finds his mum, tells her he's met the Doctor, he's met Belinda in the big blue box. That makes that, it explains what the TARDIS noise now. And his mum goes, "You're spoiling my night," and she whacks him away, like pushing him aside. And then we hear Comrade with an older voice, and he sees this in the voiceover. It was about 8 years ago when I heard that police box noise. Then I heard the stories. I interviewed eyewitnesses across the globe. Then we see him doing a podcast with somebody, an interview. And then he's interviewing someone, and it's Ruby Sunday. And he says he's going to tell us her story about her life and her adventures and encounter with the Doctor. And then she says, "Hello everyone, I'm Ruby Sunday, and this is my story." And then it goes straight into the title sequence. And then I found out this idea where they make it like a mini prologue, 3 to 5 minutes, and then title sequence, and then go back. It would be better just having a title sequence and then just go straight into the episode. We hear his the voiceover again of Comrade. It was the last time I seen the TARDIS was in 2007, which was nearly 17 years ago. But last year, which means 2024, I see it again. Only this time, it gets a bit crazier. The scene we see Comrade in the episode, and the way it's filmed when he goes to this deserted shop, it's very much on the the first time we meet the Weeping Angels in 2007. 2007 is when we met the Weeping Angels, yeah. And it felt like that, the way it was filmed, the way it was lighted and eeriness. Then Conrad hears some noises, and he hides by some area where there's cupboards and stuff like that. And it's all going dead fast, the episode, in this scene. And then we see the Doctor, and he's wearing the costume he wore on Church on Ruby Road. And that's number 2 costume he's got now. So he's wearing the famous leather jacket with the Nike sneakers and the 1970s type jeans look. And then we see then in the episode there's these creatures, and they look like they're called the Shriek, but they look like a little bit like the Doctor Who episode of the demons. These creatures, these gargoyle type creatures. What happens is these creatures, if a victim or someone touches like the slime of this goo, they can sense you anywhere where you're going, and they will stalk you like prey. The Doctor thinks he's sent them all back, but Conrad does something when the Doctor and Ruby are gone. He comes out of hiding. He gets accidentally, he touches it, and Google's on his hand, and now now one of the Shriek is still on our planet somewhere, so they now can sense his presence anywhere in the where he goes, what part of the world he is or where he lives. So he's going to have that on him, and he thinks he could just wash it off, but then it's bedded onto the skin, and they can scan him anywhere and find him, the creature, the Shriek. So the Doctor and Ruby come out of the area. She's had this antidote, so the creatures don't scan her because he touched some slime. And he said it's a bit like this famous sweet taste, but he lies, the Doctor, as you know, he lies, and it's got an unusual taste, but it's a protection filter, so they won't scan Ruby Sunday's presence, and she's safe. And then we find out when they're talking, it's only been half an hour since the most miserable episode of 2020 for the Beatles episodes that they showed, and they had to mention that they were in that episode, but that episode was one of the weakest episodes. Well, there was a few weakest episodes in 2024, but not as weak as we're getting now. These are the weaker ones now coming up, but that was a poor season anyway. But going back, Conrad comes out, he hides by some wall outside, and he's taking a photograph. And then Ruby looks around, says, "Hello, is anyone there?" And then, "Hello," and then she goes back to the TARDIS, and the TARDIS disappears. Conrad puts the photograph of the TARDIS and Ruby together and says, "Have you seen this girl?" Then we flash forward, and Ruby knocks on Conrad's door to, I think, his office where he's working, and she shows him the picture of her with the TARDIS, and then it moves into the podcast scene, and she's talking about the Doctor and the adventures, and they begin to become very friendly with each other, and eventually in the story they become a couple. And then before they become a couple, he takes Ruby out for a coffee, and Ruby shows him the video footage of the Shriek creature to say, this is real, and this one, and the Shriek, and then she starts talking about the Shriek. The Shriek can know your presence, and if they could sense you anywhere on the planet, if there's one still around. And she said, at least UNIT caught this one, but if they didn't catch it, you won't be standing here right now. And she said, you got to take this antidote. The doctor made a spare antidote for anyone who get affected by it. And he takes the antidote, puts it in his pocket, but he doesn't take it straight away. We'll find out why in a minute. And then when she's going back to the story where she's talking and the lights are going on and off and all this, and it's very got that Weeping Angels vibe, and Love and Monsters vibe, and 73 Yards vibe. That's the problem with this episode. There's too much crammed in, too much callbacks, robbing off ideas from classic Who and using ideas they used before. There's no original ideas here, and we go back to Ruby's home. She's still living with her adopted parents, even though she's found a birth mother. She's still in contact with her birth mother, and they meet up with each other. And adopted mother takes a photograph, saying, "Oh, my Ruby's going on a date, and I'm going to send this to your mum." And she said, "No, I've got to do this because you got to let your family know that we're happy for you, and you're settling down." And we cut forward and they go for a weekend away to his local village where he lives. Conrad and his friends are there, and then they become boyfriend and girlfriend eventually. But Ruby notices something unusual going on in the village. She notices the bus information with all the lights, LED lights is on, telling you the information where the stops are. It's all going glitchy and haywire, and she's thinking, And he says, "Come on, let's go." And then they go to it's like a gastro pub type place in the village where they have food and drink. She notices the lights are flickering and glitching. She said, "Just hang on a minute, I'm just going to do something and follow on." So she rings Kate from UNIT and says to Kate from UNIT, "Is the shriek still there? Because could you just check for me?" It says, and then Kate says to her, "Just enjoy your night, enjoy your weekend, have a break, and take your time." But then Kate feels she has to check out if the shriek's still there. So she goes to the cell where it's in UNIT. It's still there, the creature, and everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, a shriek appears. Not just one, but two. But some people thought they saw four, but there's actually two in the village running around. The lights are going off. Suddenly, all the lights go out, and then an old lady runs in with a dog and says, There's about four out there." But then they find out there's only two. And then Conrad's mate has just gone missing, his friend. And they think, oh, the creature might have got him. And then Ruby goes, "I'm going to investigate." And then, but when she's about to investigate, she said, "Did you take the serum?" "No." And then she gets a bit unhappy about that. But he says, "But I thought I could be brave as a doctor and just fight it on." And then she goes out and investigates. And then Ruby gets a bit of a jump scare. And Conrad's outside. And then she contacts UNIT. And UNIT get all the helicopters and jeeps and reinforcements. And then they see these two shriek creatures there. They find that supposedly his friend is being eaten. And Kate's there with the army, and then he starts laughing and clapping, and then his friends reveal that they don't believe in UNIT. They think it's just they're making up things. The doctor's not real. Ruby's fake. They're all actors. They're just trying to scare us. And they are in the think tank. And thinking of it now, there's a think tank in Tom Baker's first full episode as the Doctor, where they wanted to take back the planet for themselves. And he said, "I'm going back to Conrad with his think tank." He said, "By the way, we're live streaming this, and we're telling the truth about you. You're not real. You're not real. I I pretend to be your boyfriend to get all the information about UNIT. So it turns out he was playing them all along, and apparently he is the main villain of the story. Which, we had a little inkling something was going on, but the title of this episode, calling it Lucky Day, was not the right title. They could have called the Encounter or the Mole or something, and then you were thinking who's the mole and all that. But this episode was very poor, and I'm nearly finished what I'm about to say because everyone else is out the door. So we cut forward into some time. It's gone by, months gone by, and he's revealing all the names online about units and all that, and units names and where they live and all that. And Kate says this has to stop, and he said, "Where's he getting the information from?" And he find out in the first few minutes of this episode, he lied that his mother passed away, and his mum is very much alive, and living in the south of France in a nice villa. And he's got 3 properties because he's a podcast blogger and he's making a fortune. And he actually wanted to sign up for UNIT, and UNIT said, "You're not UNIT material," and that's why he thought the UNIT was fake, and he was getting his own back, and that's how. And we find out as well that there's a mole in UNIT, and this person has took on an alias name, and he is with this movement think tank, and we find out that it's Jordan Lang, who's one of the UNIT technician guys on the computers in there. And also there was a callback in this episode when he was doing the newsflash scenes and blogging reports. Trinity, the character Trinity Wells, comes back for this story. We haven't seen her since 2009, 2010. She was an ongoing character from series 2 to series 4 and the specials, and she comes back, and we go back to the unit scene, and Jason Lang lets him in, accesses him, and something happens to Jason Lang. We don't know if he's dead or alive, where they get an incident going on. And he gets up and he says, "Oh, by the way, this is getting recorded live." And he's holding a machine gun. And he said, "You got to stop your lies, I don't know how you do it," and all this. And then he says something about Kate Stewart's dad, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. And says, "Oh, your dad." And he said, "Be careful what you say about my father," she says. And then says, "I'm glad the doctor's not here for this. Do you want to see the truth? Do you want to see what you're talking about that you think you haven't seen the truth?" So he said, "What is that?" And then it reveals the gargoyle creature, the Shriek, and it comes out, and it says, "Because you haven't took the antidote, it's smelling for you." And he said he's getting petrified, scared, and he goes, "Help me, help me, help me." And then Ruby tases it. He says, "Thanks for saving me." And then you think he'd seen the light at this moment. Turns around, starts laughing in their faces, and he goes, "These special effects of yours are getting really good. So good." And then all of a sudden, the Shriek bites him on the arm, and he screams. And then we get back to Ruby. She's looking at the sunset, and she's looking out what the future could be, and she says, I think I've got to step down from responsibilities for a while. I need some time away from UNIT and the doctor." And Kate says, "Contact anytime when you're ready, because we'll be here." And you see a sunset looking and down, and then she goes home. And then we go to, he's now in a prison cell because he's now apparently a villain of Doctor Who now, and that's where they're doing like the Marvel thing with Doctor Who. They put them in like a Marvel type prison, and then he's got like a bionic sort of arm to fix where the creature bit him, and so you hear the TARDIS noise again, and all of a sudden he's inside the TARDIS console room, and the Doctor says, don't worry about the Shrek now. The Shriek. I said Shrek there. The Shriek. He is now gone back to his own planet. And the TARDIS only picks people who the TARDIS likes. And then the Doctor says, "But you're not good. You're not good." It's just like, "You are not good." And he says, "You're not good." And then you see him. The Doctor is now wearing another costume. He's out going for a run somewhere. He's wearing all white polo shirt with white jog pants and white sneakers. And you're thinking, how many costume changes does he have to have in this episode? And the Doctor's speech was completely awful. And he's like, it was like a part of political broadcast. It was just political, everything. It wasn't entertaining. Now, if this was a Capaldi episode, he would act more like the Doctor we know, but he'll make Conrad very scared to say, "I am the Doc," and he would give a good speech. But this was more, "It's my time now," and all this, and I didn't like the speech at all. It was awful speech. And then the Doctor, he doesn't believe what the Doctor says, and he finds him, and the Doctor clicks his fingers like that, and he's back in the prison cell. And guess who appears? Mrs. Flood. And he says, "Oh, I'm releasing you." So in other words, we're going to see Conrad again somehow, maybe in the finale. But overall, this was not a very good episode. The only good things about this episode was Ruby Sunday's character and the character of Kate Ledbetter-Stewart. They were spot on. Everyone else in this episode was awful. Awful writing. Too much going on for 45 minutes. It really was a disappointment, this episode. And giving it just 3 out of 10 just for the performances of Ruby Sunday's character and the character of Kate Ledbetter-Stewart. And this was the most poor in ratings for Doctor Who so far. 1.5 million watched it. It was a bank holiday weekend. Most people were off. There was other things on in the weekend. And I think it's looking more like it's going to go... If it goes to 1.0, they're going to have problems in their hand. And if it goes to 1.9, they've got a problem in their hand. And I think this is... For this current vision of Doctor Who, this Doctor Who is over. He's still not the Doctor. He's acting too cocky, too human. There's a lot of political stuff in it. It's not sci-fi escapism, action and adventure anymore. It's all getting political now. So that's why I scored a 3 out of 10 just for those 2 performances. Everything else was a rehash, retelling. Too much in for a 45-minute episode. The pacing was sometimes too slow, too fast, and it could have easily, if they went back to the classic Who format, they could easily made this a 3 to 4-parter episode, and you got to know the characters. Then you would have got this thing that you wouldn't think would happen, and U-turn in the story. But it was too crammed in the story, and it was basically, the rest of it was very drawn out, very yawn fest as well. So that's my review. Subscribe to the channel. Take care. See you soon.